thought. Training. So, in the previous class, we have discussed about the business plan and what are the objectives of business plan. Am I audible to you clearly? Please confirm once. So that we will
Yes, sir.
proceed. And is the visible sharing?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any doubts from your side or anything you want to discuss? Presently? Okay. Now, participants for. So after understanding about the business plan and how the business plan helps us, what is the objectives of the business plan and what are the types of business plan, all these aspects that we have discussed in the previous class, exclusively strategic business plan, and what are the various lending options that are available, that we are again talking in the next topic, that is business financing. So startup plan, feasibility plan, internal plans and all. After this one, investment and lending options, various types of investments, what are they? How a business enterprise can be financed from the various sources. All these aspects today we are going to study on. And feasibility study versus business plan. Actually, feasibility study is conducted before the business plan actually. This point you remember. Feasibility plan is conducted before the business plan. So whether the business is feasible or not, then if we prove that it is proved that the business is feasible, then we will go for the creation of the business plan. That is very, very important. Common areas not required. Let us move forward. So enterprise financing, that is unit number 8. All the students, both the chat box. Right? So, in the case of enterprise financing, basically we talked about the what are the various types of enterprise financing, what are the possibilities of financial planning, and role of the financial manager. This is an important area where you have to understand this. So, what is the role of the finance manager, and how? What is the role of the finance manager? Basically, the role of the finance manager in nowadays it is very critical. That, as mentioned, as one important point is that he has to raise the finances. He has to give authenticity to what extent he uses these finances properly, and what is the demand estimations for the for the use of the finances and all. These are expected to be main important area. Then both the permanent capital and working capital is also to be estimated by the entrepreneur by the financial manager, and taking care of the liquidity position of the firm also he has to concentrate. If he is not able to satisfy the liquidity position, automatically firm will have losses and due to the problems, due to the various problems of lack of working capital. And this is the basically the role of the finance manager. So in brief, we can say that the finance manager performs these main important functions, that is to determine the funds requirement and resources, to determine the type of assets required, what type of assets, to determine the pattern of financial savings, and so on. So how these assets and so on. So finance function is basically said to be what is the financial requirement or what is the funds requirement, that is called an investment decision. Then what type of assets that are to be acquired, whether the asset is it a long term or is it a short term, and how the liquidity position of the firm can be maintained, and these aspects must be taken care of by the finance manager. Then determine the pattern of financing these assets. Okay, I want to acquire a computer fully automatic computerized machine, right? But at the same time, if it is from the bank loan, the bank loan will be normally short term only, but a computerized machine will be high cost. Due to that reason, the company will suffer a loss. Company will suffer a loss because the interest burden will be very high. So when the finance any of the machine or any of the asset which gives us benefit over a very longer period of time, that must be financed by the finance corporations like ICICI and so on. So like that, there are what is the type of funds required, what type of assets are to be acquired, how this matching can be done between the asset to be purchased and amount to be financed. These are the important areas to be considered, right? So let us just have a just wait 1 second. So let us get back to now. So these are the various important areas. But then finance, what are the sources of finance? So on the basis of time, how these sources are to be identified? Just listen to me once, then we will go further. When we are talking about the sources of finance, when we are talking about the sources of finance, there are two basic types of finances. That is, one is short-term finances, another one is the long-term finances. All the short-term finances basically talk about the short-term finances basically talk about the arrangement of the working capital, and long-term finances basically talk about the arrangement of the fixed capital. This is a very, very important aspect that we have to understand. So when we are talking about the sources of finance, when we are talking about the sources of finance, there are these sources of finance are basically uh, two types. One is long-term sources of finance. In this case, share capital, equity capital, global financing. These are the recent aspects that what we are coming out now. So when we are talking about this one, now first of all, let us briefly go on that. Equity share capital is a very long-term. The firm, we need not repay back any rupee to the equity shareholder. Then, uh, then, then we can understand that. Then preference share capital or the preference capital or preference shares. Preference shares are issued to the general public for the purpose of taking the preference towards the profit sharing. So if the profits are there, equity shareholders will distribute, otherwise no. But the preference shareholders, certain amount of dividend is still paid. Then retained earnings are internal accrual. Some of the profits are to be retained in the firm. That is called as retained earning. Issue of debentures and bonds. That is known to you. So terms of long-term financial institutions like ICICI, IDBI, SIDBI, and so on. These are basically ICICI, Industrial Credit and Investment Corporation of India, IDBA, Industrial Development Bank of India. So like that, various long-term institutions are there. In the case of industries, that is district industry center, to establish the small and contract industry, small scale industries in the rural area, the district industry centers will definitely help us. So these are the various important aspects that you have to understand. Then venture capital financing or venture funding. So what to understand about venture funding is that when we are talking about the venture capital financing, then we need to go with that. Whatever the venture capital concept I have discussed in the previous class also once. Right. So in the case of medium-term sources, the financial institutions, government will provide subsidy and all. So here, asset securitization is that various assets are to be taken into consideration as a group, and they must be ascertained by means of a legal values. And global financing by way of euro issues, foreign currency loans, ADR and GDR. Whenever the firm is substantially large in size, then it has to go by global financing, not by the only one country limited. Then the companies can go for the funds from the large industrial undertaking from the foreign countries also. That is called like foreign currency loans. Especially ICICI Bank is very much popular about providing foreign currency loans. So global deposit receipts, that is GDR, that is American deposit receipts, that is ADR, euro issues, all these are various sources of long-term finance for the enterprise. Then medium-term financing, financial institutions. Already I told you about this one. Financial institutions, nothing but the other than commercial banks. So you are talking about ICICI Bank, but ICICI Bank is different. ICICI is different. ICICI is Industrial Credit and Investment Corporation of India, which is established very long back to provide especially for the granting the foreign currency loans. Government anyhow providing subsidies to various organizations, and then various loans also to the schemes. For various schemes also the government is also providing. For example, Mudra scheme. Commercial banks also provide financial assistance. Lease financing, that is one other way. Hire purchase financing. Short-term financing basically talks about the short-term loans, fixed deposits, trade credit, and so on. So these are known to you. On the basis of ownership, this is an important element what you have to remember. On the basis of ownership, how the capital is provided. Own capital, this you have learned in your BCom accounting also. Ownership capital, that is equity capital, preference capital, retained earnings are nothing but the profits kept in the firm without distributing the dividends to the investors. Venture fund, private equity. These are the various aspects. In case of debt, financial institutions, commercial banks, debentures, bonds, and other types of borrowed money. So already these concepts we have already covered. And this aspect also just now we have seen. And on the basis of source of raising, so from where we are raising, that is internal sources, external sources. Internal sources are retained profits, reduction in controlling of the working capital, sale of the assets. These are the important points you have to. And the major important question, that is venture capital. What are the characteristics of venture capital? How the venture capital financing is useful in India? So types of venture capital. So when we are talking about venture capital, the name itself says that venture capital is nothing but a capital which is introduced into a business firm where there is a high risk factor. So if the firm is successful, it gains maximum amount of profits. If the firm but whereas if it is failure, then it is very difficult to get back the investment also. That is, high risk projects are considered to be a venture capital fund. The funds established in the form of a company or a trust which raises money through loans, donations, issue of securities, etc. The case may be makes proposals for investment in accordance with the regulation. So features of venture capital is an important. What is venture capital? What are the various features of the venture capital is to be understood. So there is high risk, already I explained. Lack of liquidity. In between, you cannot terminate the project until it gives a full shape. It cannot be terminated. We can understand in an easy way whether it may be 100% correct or not. Say for example, you are constructing a multi-store complex. So this is one shopping malls, etc. Normally it will become successful, but if any problem arises that lacks liquidity, in between you cannot stop. And long-term horizon, if you start investing in a multi-purpose complex for the construction and all, it takes nearly 5 to 10 years of time. Till that, the investor has to wait. Till that, they cannot recover any sort of single rupee. Then equity participation and capital gains. These are the other participation in the management, unless the other financial institutions. The venture capitalists also form part of this where firm's equity. Then that means a person who invested the huge amount of money, he will participate in the management. Mostly of the venture capital projects are high technology oriented, but innovation through which the project can be succeeded. These are the various important characteristics. Types of venture capital is the most important element. So one is seed capital. Just starting out, he will get no product organized with the company yet, but he should get he or she would be seeking this capital that is called as seed capital. So seed. So in the case of seed capital, that means the investor will require the funds at the very beginning of time. Startup capital at the company where the company is starting up. Early stage financing or first round capitalization. 2 or 3 years when the venture is continuing, then entrepreneur requires the funds for the developmental process. This is called as early stage of first round financing. Second round financing or expansion financing. That is when the venture capitalist takes business to the next level. Then it is called as expansion. And later stage or third round of financing. When the firm grows in size and achieves its impressive sales, then at the time of ramping up into the market. Increase of working capital needs will be there, and as a result of that, huge amount of funds are required for the firm. So when the firm is running in full swing, then this type of third round financing will be taken. Bridge financing is one where the entrepreneur may also be taken to the partner to help him for the merger or acquisition of the opportunity, to attract public financing through stock offering, and so these are said to be these are said to be various important areas. Bridge financing or short-term financing that allows him to pay for the cost of associated with the going to the public. So then, what are the various ways how the venture capitalist can invest? What are these are what are types of venture capital? These are characteristics of venture capital. This is what is venture capital. Then lastly, we will go with this and then we will jump to the next this one, advantages. So how the venture capitalist invest the money in the venture capital institution. So one is trade sales, then IPO, initial public offer, recycling, company buyback of shares. These 4 points you remember, that is the various ways how the bridge financing is given to the firm. Then acquisition of buying out or financing process. These are the various important advantages and disadvantages of the organization. Second one is angel financing, then sources of funding, investment profile. Then the another important point, another important aspect, what you are expected to definitely know, that is called as export finance. So if a firm is basically engaged in the process of exporting the goods to the foreign countries, then they require special type of finances. That too, if when the goods are exported from one country to the another, then a lot of time will be there to get back money from the foreign country. So during that process, so companies need export financing. So the finance available not only to promote the export business, but it also sell to the overseas customers on credit basis. That's what I told you. Suppose I sold goods on credit, then the customer will not pay on the spot. He will take a lot of time, that to foreigners. Then how the funds will coming out. Then this process will be taken care of by export finance. Purpose of export financing is that startup new export finance business. So startup of new export financing business. So when the firm is till now talking with talking with only this one, so indigenous business. So that means domestic sales only. So when the firm is expanding its business towards the foreign export, then it has to go for the export business. Then this type of funds are required. Then business expansion. So business expansion is expansion to the foreign countries. That is export-oriented business financing. Working capital towards exports. Then Export Credit Guarantee Corporation is there, which will provide the finances. Exim Bank is another important one. Export-Import Bank of India. It is wholly owned government subsidiary. It is wholly owned government subsidiary, which will provide finances in the various stages for an entrepreneur to go with that. One is pre-shipment finance or pre-shipment credit, it is also called. Pre-shipment finance or pre-shipment credit. Pre-shipment finance or pre-shipment credit. So in that case, what you can understand is that pre-shipment finance is provided when an exporter needs funds before the shipment of the products to goods. So this is one. Before the goods are basically sent to the foreign country, or before they are shipped for the transport, shipped for the export. Whatever the finances that are provided, that is said to be pre-shipment finance. Then another important area to be understood is that in this there are two credits are there. One is packaging credit, then business loan. Packaging credit and business loan, these are the two important areas. Then what are the various the following documents? What are the documents that are given? Then post-shipment finance is another one. That is when once the goods are dispatched and an invoice is raised, then the exporter has to see that through the credit period until receive the payment from the buyer. That means seller has to wait till the payment is made by the foreign importer. So in this case, short-term finance is one, medium-term financing, long-term financing. Then bill discounting and invoicing. These are the various aspects that you have to Understand? Export financing against collection of bills, letter of credit from the discounting. Letter of credits are normally issued by the bank. Then supplier's credit and buyer's credit also will be there in this process. These important aspects you can maximum understand and remember. What is the, let us go once, okay, instead of going in a blind way, let us just recapitulate once what we started and where we started. Actually, we started with the various types of sources finance and what are the various sources. What is the role of the finance manager? Actually, before that, in enterprise financing, that means how a business enterprise is financed or how an entrepreneur will get finances. That is in the unit number 8. In this, you are expected to understand what is the role of the finance manager in the newly emerged enterprises. Then explain the sources of finance. What are the long-term and short-term sources of finance, medium-term sources? Explain the short-term, long-term, medium-term sources of finance. These 3 side headings are there. On the basis of ownership, just you understand ownership capital, debt capital. That's all. Another important question in this particular lesson, that is called as venture capital financing. Whenever we are talking about venture capital financing, what are the types of, what is venture capital? Explain the features of venture capital. What are the types of venture capital? Then another concept is that 8.6 paragraph number. Then export financing. What is the purpose of export financing? What are the phases of export financing? And what is the purpose means? You can write about 1, 2, 3. One is startup new business, then startup new business, then a business expansion process, working capital finance. Then how this will be అనేది అక్కర్లేదు. Phases of export financing. Phases of export financing is very pre-shipment finance, post-shipment finance, finance against collection of invoices, then finance needed in case of suspension of the removal of the export subsidies of the benefit. These are the various important aspects you can. So post-shipment finance. One important, institutional support to the entrepreneurs. So explain the role of financial institutions in supporting entrepreneurs. Explain the role of financial institutions in supporting entrepreneurs. So when this question normally may or may not. So then Small Industries Development Bank of India, already what I told you, IFCA, Industrial Finance Corporation of India, NSIC, National Small Industries Corporation, NABARD, National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development, then State Finance Corporation, commercial and other banks. These are the small paragraphs you maintain, and just in your model paper also, it will be a 10 marks question. So cover all the 5 headings and mention about the important point of each one. Then that's all. So last topic in this lesson, emerging trends in financial enterprises. What are the various emerging trends, that is newly coming up aspects in the financing enterprise? What all venture capital, how it will be, what is export financing? They are graduate level questions. Whereas what are the emerging trends, how these trends are going in the financial enterprises and so on. So deposit and lending, that is one. That is cluster innovations, investment management, that is a newly emerging, capital raising, payments, and market provisioning. These are the various newly emerging aspects which will come. And along with that, you can write about crowdfunding also. That is the crowdfunding. It is a process of raising finance from the various public for a specific purpose. Then already venture capital financing is also one type. Then equity funding, that also you can, here it is already given. So what I am talking about, OECD report on new approaches to enterprise. So private placement or equity, then debt securitization and covered bonds, crowdfunding, peer-to-peer lending, and hybrid financing, then asset-based categories of insurance. These subheadings you maintain, and that will be a good, excellent answer for you. So normally you practice, try to cover about 8 to 9 important points. That will be enough answer for that. So with this, we have completed this lesson. So I am trying to my level best to complete this one. And I came to know that one more class will be there because day before yesterday's class is cancelled because of the technical problem. So we will complete block 5 also in the uh, next. Project planning and execution block 4. In that preparation of detailed project report, 3 aspects are given here. One is preparation of detailed project report, project appraisal, and entrepreneurial growth. Yesterday, one of our friend, he asked to completely explain about the various topics in a brief summary. With that intention, I am trying to cover up, actually. So if any doubts from your side, always welcome. Right? Preparation of detailed project report, in that the features of a project, class, what is project life cycle, steps in preparation of detailed project. These are the modern detailed project report. Nobody will ask about this one. Project life cycle concept to features of the project to classification of projects. That may be steps in preparation of the detailed project. So concept of project. What is actually the project? Project is said to be project is said to be a complex a composition of various complex activities, and then what all the other activities that will be comes under what comes in a sequence to get a full-fledged activity to be completed. Then project life cycle. So in the this is not product life cycle. This is not product life cycle. This is project life cycle. Remember carefully. When we are talking about project life cycle, so in the product life cycle, we already understood that in marketing concept, that is growth stage, maturity stage, and decline stage, the origin, and so on. So in the same way, in the project life cycle also it consists of 3 major stages. One is pre-investment stage. In this case, the first stage of project. Then second one, construction phase. Then normalization phase. Then these 3 are basically 3 important stages in the concept of a project. Project identification. More specifically, the following are 5 phases which are usually taught. This is elaborative nature of the other thing. This graph, if you or this diagram, if you are able to practice, it will be good enough to write. So project identification. So already this topic we discussed. Identify a project. So which will give financial feasibility, marketing feasibility and all by various methods. That is brainstorming, reverse brainstorming and so on. And a project pre-sanction follow-up. It is a measurement of risk of the project. Project appraisal, the process of appraising the project in structured way in case of proceeding with the project and so on. Project implementation, execution, then project feedback. So these are the 5 steps that we have. Classification of project on the basis of sector-wise. These are various sectors. Then techno-economic projects. What are techno-economic projects? That is factor intensity. Also, this is only the very important area what you can expect. The steps in preparation of the detailed project, because this is the core area in the entire lesson. I think this is only the lesson in that, yes, preparation of the detailed project report. What is the concept and what are the steps in preparation of the detailed project report. These points you can remember. And the features of a project is a short question. Explain what are the features of a short question. Explain what are the features of a project. That is simplicity, clarity, availability of this one. They are to be mentioned as follows. Then availability of attractive technology, And these points you can remember. Classification of projects, normally it may not be. Financial institutions classification. So in this flow chart, it is very clearly given. So what are the various stages in that? So first one is project, second one is feasibility, techno-economic analysis, design and network, input factor, financing, social cost benefit, and pre-investment. Feasibility analysis, already we are talking about that one. Techno-economic analysis, in this step, estimation of project demand potential. This is called as economic analysis. What we have studied in the very first beginning class, that is techno-economic analysis is nothing but economic analysis of the project, we can say. Project design and networking defines the individual activities for the constitution of the project and the interrelationship with each other. So while undertaking a detailed project, then what are the various stages? What are the various stages and how they will be taken care of to the goal achievement and so on. Then input analysis. The steps concentrate on the most input requirement. Input requirements is not only material requirement, it requires human resources, financial resources, and so on. What inputs are required for that? Then financial analysis basically talks about the cost, volume, profit analysis, then the project cost estimations, and so on. So already these topics you studied in your second semester, that is financial management aspect. Discounted capital budgeting proposal. In that you have two types of techniques. One is say traditional budgeting techniques, and second one so in the case of financial analysis, basically we are talking about the financial feasibility. The traditional methods and non-discounting methods, discounting methods we will go on that. Social cost analysis and pre-investment analysis we will basically do. These are the various steps in that. So, and you can refer to the model detailed project report and you can understand these aspects. Anything else from your side? Any one of you? Are you following basically?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please.
Yes, sir. So, right. Only important aspects cover చేస్తున్నారండి.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please go ahead, sir.
Right. So, project appraisal is another important aspect. ఇది ఇంకొక యూనిట్ ఉంది కదండి, బ్లాక్ 5 కూడా ఉంది కదా.
Yes, sir. Yes. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Block 5 కూడా ఉంది.
Okay. So in the tomorrow we'll go by block 5. With that, all 5 units will be complete and classes also will be complete. So right. Project appraisal in this. So what are the steps to be followed in the project appraisal? That is to be understood. And these aspects already we covered on that. Then project appraisal meaning. This is important area where you have to understand. Project appraisal is a consistent process of reviewing given project and evaluating it in the concept of through analyzing the problems needed to address by the project. So, now the appraisal of the project is undertaken by the financial institutions with twin objectives of determining the market potentiality and all. So now, nevertheless, certain common aspects study the angle of technology and engineering as mentioned. So on what basis you can appraise the project? So explain the ways or what is the basis of appraising the project. So choice of technology, technical collaboration agreements, size and scale of operation, and then plant layout and all. These are the list of points to be understood. What are the steps followed in the project appraisal? So this is one economic aspects, technical, organizational, managerial, operation. These 6 steps you identify and make a point of that one. If you are able to understand this one, that will be a good answer. Focus on aspects like demand, supply, economic, technical projects, process of adopting specific technology, organization, suitability, aimed with the aspect of the incorporation. So managerial, adequacy and competency, operational capability to project in terms of operational experience. Financial determination, financial feasibility. That's all. Economic aspects are these aspects. These figures are excellently given in the no material. So, what are the various economic aspects to be understood? Increase of output, enhance the services also. Financial aspects are financial soundness, efficiency, cost of production, all these things. So, out of this also, what I suggest is that return on investment is a very, very important parameter. In the ratio analysis, we will go by calculating return on investment ratio, ROI. That is one. In the case of profitability, we go by In the case of profitability, we go by profitability ratios. So in that, we go by gross profit ratio, net profit ratio. Then another important tool is that budgeting. Budgeting is a very, very important tool. So actuals are compared with budgets. Then how much will be the debt, and it is not bet, it is debt and debt versus equity. Wrong mistake వచ్చింది. BEDT కాదు, DEBT, debt versus equity. So these are the various important aspects that you have to understand. In the marketing aspects like that. So in the marketing aspects, analyze total size of the market and existing new productions on. These are the important on. Technical aspects are also to be studied. So what is the raw material supplier? Where is proximity of markets, transportation facility, power and fuel, water, manpower, etc. And labor loss, already 656. So these are the various aspects that we have to study in case of the technical aspects. So who is the raw material supplier? Then nearness to the market, then transport facility, how it is, then power and fuel supply, then what will be the availability of manpower, water facility, and all labor, and what are the labor laws that will apply, that are applicable to the organization, strategy consideration, taxation policy, and all that. Technical collaboration aspects are this one, indigenous technologies and all. So managerial competencies also discounted cash flow, non-discounted cash flow techniques already what we discussed right now. Discounted cash flows consider the payback period method. Discounted cash flows method. They are considered as the accounting rate of return and payback period method, what you studied in your financial management. So these concepts are known to you. In the MBA second semester in the financial management, you have understood these aspects, present value concept, internal rate of return, profitability index, and non-discounting techniques, that is payback period method. So within how much period you are able to get back your investment. Then the average rate of return is also another important method, that is total profits by net investment will be taken. These are the various important, these problems part, I hope this is theoretical paper and actually to the best of my expectation, this problems aspect may not be asked in your examination. With that, second part is complete. Now unit number 11, entrepreneurial growth strategies. So then entrepreneurial strategy, joint ventures. What is entrepreneurial strategy? Growth strategies. So here this is important. What are the various growth strategies? Explain the growth strategies for the enterprise. Explain various entrepreneurial strategies. Out of that, what are the growth strategies? Explain internal and external environment, that is SWOT analysis. Analyze the SWOT. So strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Formulate ventures, long range and short range strategies. That is mission, objective strategy. Implement strategies for the long range program budgeting, and so on. Then evaluate performance of the strategy, take up follow-up action. So this is important strategy. What are the growth strategies for? Penetration strategy means, first of all, penetrate into the market. Product development strategy. That is second stage, how to develop your product. Third one is diversification strategy. Your business is to be diversified into various routes. Market development strategy is the last one, where the market is. But this grid is applicable for the new market and product is new. When the new market, product is new, you should develop the market as well as for the product also. When the product is already existing product and existing market, then into that market you must be able to penetrate.